this is Magnum Pi of Initiative Zero. Today we're going to dive deeper into the Chronicles of Darkness and unpack its investigation system. If you find coming up with clues that players never find to be a chore, well, this may be the system for you. The idea in it really can be transferred to any other game, even if you're not playing the Chronicles of Darkness. So, if you like this sort of thing and want to hear more of it, hit that subscribe button. Tap the bell if you want to be alerted to new posts on this channel, and drop a comment in the box below because we'd love to hear from you. The Chronicles of Darkness is a game about uncovering the supernatural. Something just isn't right in the world, and your character can't look away once she's found that something that just doesn't mesh with how the world ought to work. So you can imagine investigation is a big part of a game like this, and well, it continues to be even if your character becomes a part of the supernatural herself or rises up and takes the fight directly to them. This system, though, it really isn't for that sort of casual, momentary investigation where you're trying to do a sort of cursory check in an area to find something like a concealed door or a sign that somebody's passed through recently or that key hidden somewhere in the room. Rather, this system is about unveiling and unraveling a protracted mystery that requires the characters to collect clues that will unlock the inexplicable. This system can also be used, however, to acquire information that could be advantageous in other later encounters. For example, you could use it to dig up dirt on somebody to blackmail them later, or find that access code to get into the vault. To make use of this system, you have to abide by two overarching rules. There are no hard answers, and there are no binary roles. No hard answers means that the storyteller, that's the name that Chronicles of Darkness gives to the game master, doesn't come up with the clues ahead of time. That's right, you don't make up any clues. You might know the solution to the mystery, but you don't need to come up with the clues that lead the characters to that solution ahead of time. Or at all. Rather, the players explain just what it is that they find when they succeed on a roll. The presumption here is that a successful investigator would just find what it is that they're looking for. And so the players can work with the storyteller to really articulate just what it is that their character found, what that clue is. You can see this in play in Chapter 2 of the story of Mice and Men. It's the first story in our Second City Chronicle. You can find the link right there. It's when the characters are investigating in the library. The no binary roles rule means that a failed roll doesn't derail the investigation. A failed roll, in this case, doesn't mean that the character doesn't find a clue. It's just that the clues that they find aren't all that useful to solving the overall puzzle. So, think of it this way. A successful roll means that a clue gets uncovered which can assist in subsequent rolls to find clues. Or, if they collect enough clues, it can allow an investigator to solve the mystery by fiat, without even rolling. So a failed roll doesn't mean that the character doesn't find a clue. It just means that it's somehow incomplete. Or, if the failure is particularly dramatic, that it's tainted somehow. These clues don't help solve the mystery. Rather, an incomplete clue can still be used to help find other clues. A tainted clue, however, kind of needs to be worked through, or it'll hinder the investigation. Pacing the investigation well means that a clue will typically be found after a journey to some place where it can be obtained. It isn't just a series of rolls done to accumulate successes. Rather, a character may need to gain access to some sort of server room, let's say, to access the server directly using a hardwired terminal to gain the clue that's stored there. That means they're going to have to make rolls to gain entry and role play the bribing of IT personnel and possibly tangle with some guards as they get in or get out. Only once inside the server room would the player roll to acquire the clue for this investigation. So in this system, a clue is just a piece of equipment. like a multi-tool or a first aid kit. In Chronicles of Darkness, this means that it has a rating, which provides a bonus to any roll where it might be of use. These bonuses are known as elements, and clues can have anywhere from 1 to 3 elements, and a player can typically only draw from one clue at a time to apply elements as bonuses. If a clue has multiple elements, a player can apply one or many of these elements to a single task. If your character has dots in the investigation skill, well, that allows the player to expend the elements from many clues at the same time. 1 clue per dot. So if you have investigation 3, you could access elements from 3 clues at the same time. When investigating, the dice pool that's rolled doesn't always include the investigation skill. Rather, the most relevant dice pool is used. Looking for a file in that server terminal we were talking about before, that would probably use intelligence plus computer. Carousing a witness into giving more information might require a manipulation plus socialize roll. Each time a dice pool is used again, it suffers a cumulative -1 penalty. So if your character's just constantly hacking computers, well, they're going to get some diminishing returns. There's only so many clues, after all, hidden on computers. A successful roll provides a clue with a single element. An exceptional roll, an exceptional success in the Chronicles of Darkness, maybe a natural 20 if you were playing something like D&D, will provide a clue with 2 elements. If the roll is done by an expert, somebody that's specialized or trained in a particular skill, or who has 4 or more dots in the skill in Chronicles of Darkness, well, if they're successful, they get an additional element on that clue. They're really good at finding clues in their area of expertise. Failure results in a clue with the incomplete tag, as we mentioned before. Its elements can only be used to uncover more clues, never anything else. A dramatic failure will result in a tainted clue. Each tainted clue robs a roll of one of its successes until it's been worked through. Working through a tainted clue means using its elements to find new clues, but instead of getting a +1 bonus per element, it provides a -2 penalty. It sucks when you hit those snags, but once you work through them, they won't affect your investigation again. In this system, the storyteller has to set the scope of the investigation by picking the total number of clues required to solve the mystery. It's between 1 to 5. To solve the mystery, players must collect this number of clues and then expend an equal number of elements. Remember, however, that a player can only expend elements from 1 clue at a time, or a number of clues equal to their dots in investigation. This means that solving mysteries will typically require someone with an investigation skill. They usually call them the principal investigator. They're the ones that are able to combine the clues that are found by the players and see that mystery unfold. If the group has enough clues, but can't expend enough elements to solve the mystery, then the storyteller adds a complication for every element that they're short. These include things like the culprit has plausible deniability, or a viable escape plan, or maybe they're holding somebody hostage. Something that prevents a nice, clean resolution to that mystery. Maybe the complication is that exposing the mystery results in a personal, legal, or social consequence for the characters, and so they're reluctant to actually solve the mystery, so they don't get all of the information. Maybe the complication is that the mystery is just cover for some other dastardly plot, which means a red herring. Red herrings kind of suck, so use them judiciously, though. Sometimes it's good to bark up the wrong tree. It makes for a dramatic story, but if you do it all the time, it really loses its punch. So, let's see this in action. As I said before, you can watch this play out in Chapter 2 of the story of Mice and Men for our Second City Chronicle. You can click the link here. This is a different scenario, though, than the one you'll see in that video. So let's presume that the 4 characters from the Second City Chronicle are working together to uncover where a secret cult is going to perform an ancient rite to summon a terrible creature by sacrificing Grayson's lover, Samantha Way. I set the scope to 4 clues that need to be uncovered for this mystery. Grayson Bridger is going to be the lead investigator on this one. He has an investigation skill of 2. That means Grayson will be able to combine the elements of up to 2 clues. He can begin investigating by going with his strengths and scouring the library for works that might give a clue to the location needed to perform the rite. Grayson is an amazing researcher. His professional training merit gives him 9 again on academics rolls, and he has 4 dots in academics. He is a specialist in religion as well, and I would rule that that specialty would apply to this quasi-religious cult. This means that if Grayson is successful, he'll get a clue that has 2 elements. He opts to spend some willpower, and hopefully that will help him score an exceptional success, which would allow him to have a clue that has 3 elements. He gathers his intelligence plus academics with a bonus of +4 from his religion specialization and willpower. That's a total of 12 dice that he gets to roll. Looking for the modifiers in Chronicles of Darkness, page 79, I can see that performing the rite aligns with Grayson's virtue of purposefulness. The cultists will find great purpose in this rite, and so the crime in question aligns with Grayson's virtue. That's another +1 for him. 13 dice. Unfortunately, the circumstances involving Samantha means that Grayson has a personal grudge against these cultists, and he's emotionally invested. That's -2 each. Further, the group is pressed for time. Samantha's life is on the line. That's another -3. That's a total penalty of -7 to a pool of 13 dice. So his final pool will be 6 dice. Grayson rolls, and unfortunately gains only 1 success. Still, that provides him with a clue that has 2 elements. Golgotha, the player that plays Grayson, says that Grayson finds the time that the rite is going to take place and its environment. Golgotha told me what he found. He came up with the clue. I explained that it has to be done under a new moon at its zenith and in a natural environment. I kind of help him flesh out those details and tie them to the world that I've built so far. Vinny's next. He knows that he can get one of the cultists that they've captured to talk. He grabs his baseball bat and goes into the basement where they have the cultist tied up. He tries to intimidate the cultist while questioning him. His dice pool will be presence plus intimidation, and he's not a specialist. But the bat will give him its damage rating as a bonus to this. That's +2. He's also going to spend willpower. That gives him a pool of 9 dice. Circumstantial modifiers are, well, Vinny's going to be tenacious in his questioning of this guy. That's going to give him a +1. Although he isn't as emotionally invested as Grayson is, he hates these damned cultists, so he's got a grudge. That's -2. He is also pressed for time, given the situation. -3. So his total modifier is going to be -4. That's a final dice pool of 5 dice. He rolls, but unfortunately gets no successes. The cultists, well, they talk, but not with enough detail to help. So he still gets a clue. That's a clue that has a single element, but it gets tagged as incomplete. That element can only be spent to find more clues. It can't be used to solve this mystery. Vahilo, Vinny's player, says that Vinny gets enough information to get the general direction that the cultists went to go do this ritual, but not enough detail to know just where that is. But since this clue could help somebody else, Vinny gives the clue to Elliot. That's right. It's like another piece of equipment. You can give it to somebody else. Now, Elliot, he's been living on the streets for a bit, and he's got enough survival to know how to do a little bit of tracking. He's no specialist, but he's going to try to follow the trail with his wits plus survival. He's going to expend willpower, and he's going to use Vinny's clue. That's going to give him a total dice pool of 9 dice. To that we add the circumstantial modifiers from the main rulebook. Unfortunately, the trail's a bit over a day old. That's -1. He does have unrestricted access to tail these guys, though. That's +2. But he's pressed for time. That's -3. It's a total modifier of -2 for a pool of 7 dice that he gets to roll. He rolls 5 successes on 7 dice. That's an exceptional success. That means he gains a clue with 2 elements. Dark Templar, Elliot's player, says that Elliot successfully tracked them. I say that he knows that they are somewhere in the forest preserves to the west of Chicago. But he doesn't have their exact location, because one more clue is still needed. Christopher Sloan, the last member of this group, he's opted to do some traditional investigating. He heads to the safe house where they thought Samantha was originally being held and only found the single cultist that they now have in their possession. He does a thorough search of the area in hopes of finding something that will reveal their location. He rolls his wits plus investigation. He'll also spend willpower for a +3 bonus. Circumstantially, Christopher has unrestricted access to the safe house. There's nobody else around. But the abduction aligns with his vice of ambition. The cultists are very ambitious, so that gives him a -1. It's been a day since this happened, another -1, and he's rushed, which is another -3. That's a total penalty of -3, so he's just doing a straight wits plus investigation roll. That's 5 dice. He rolls, and he gets no successes. Another incomplete clue with a single element that can't be used to solve the mystery. Teku, Christopher's player, says that Christopher finds information that indicates the preserves, but nothing more. Again, I, the game master, don't come up with the clue that Christopher finds. Teku, the player, did. Still, they've found the requisite 4 clues, and now they can solve the mystery. When they meet, Grayson is able to take a look at everything. Remember, he's the principal investigator. He has 2 dots in investigation. He can combine the elements from his clue and Elliot's clue. They've got a total of 4 clues. To solve the mystery, they have to expend a total of 4 elements. They have 2 clues with 2 elements each that can be combined by Grayson's skill. So that's just what the group needs to solve the mystery. Grayson is able to determine from what he knows and what Elliot found out the only possible spot that would be open to the sky near where the trail ran cold for Elliot. So they race to the scene. They foil the cultists and save Samantha. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Magnum's Musings, and I hope that it's helped you understand this other way of doing an investigation. Again, you can apply this to any game system. An exceptional success doesn't have to be the same thing that an exceptional success is in Chronicles of Darkness. In D&D, it could be a natural 20. A dramatic failure could be rolling a 1. It's a great way of running a mystery without the game master actually having to think up of all those clues, and your players never miss a clue. This can save you a lot of time, and it can also save you a lot of headache when your players just don't find those clues that you need them to find. So, let me know what you think of this investigation system in the comments below. Remember that if you'd like to see more of this type of content, hit subscribe and ring that bell. We'll be back next week with more musings. Until then, remember that if you can't roll high, you can always hang with us at Initiative 0.